What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Jellygoon TV. Welcome back to the Jellygoon Squad. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and thank you for the newcomers, of course. Hit that subscribe button to become a member. Today we have a common request, but before we get to that, I want to say there's a Patreon down below where you can go support me. There's a YouTube channel where I make rap music you can go check out, and there's also a business email down below. So if you want to write me or you want to send me mail or anything like that, please comment down below, and it is what it is. But today we have another common request by this beautiful person right here. And we're gonna react to Russian family who had never seen another human. I thought every human has seen a human, but yeah. They're family, so it doesn't really pay attention. Like, they're family, so they have seen another human because they have seen each other. Never mind. The title doesn't really make sense. But yeah, Russian family who never seen another human. So let's get into it, let's go.
There are few places left in the world that remain truly remote. It seems like man has explored and inhabited every corner of the globe, from the tallest heights to the deepest depths. But the Russian taiga, stretching across Siberia, remains one of the few truly wild expanses in the world. 5 million square miles. The region stretches from the Russian Arctic as south as Mongolia, and from the Urals all the way to the Pacific. The region is so vast and remote that few people have ever explored any significant portion of it, and it remains largely pristine and untouched to this day. It is also, however, a vast source of oil and mineral wealth for Russia, and in 1978 a helicopter surveying the region made a startling discovery. The helicopter's mission was to find a safe place to land a party of geologists sent to explore the region. The men were to survey the landscape and determine the best location to prospect for oil and minerals, and rather than trek through the thick woods and tall mountains on foot, relied on the helicopter to leap between prospective sites. On the hunt for a new site to set the team down, the helicopter had followed the course of the Abakan River and turned to follow one of its tributaries, but was having zero luck finding a clearing to land on. The thick pine trees pressed in so close together that there was no room for a safe landing. As the chopper pulled along a narrow valley with steep walls, the pilot suddenly spotted something decidedly unnatural and that shouldn't exist. A small clearing with several deep furrows lies 6,000 feet up a mountainside, and the helicopter made several passes so that the crew could determine that they had truly discovered what they believed the clearing to be: a garden for growing crops. Flying back to base, the pilots reported to the geologists what they had discovered. The news astounded and worried the team, as there were over 150 miles from the nearest city, and this entire region was unexplored. There was not supposed to be anybody out here, and as one of the geologists later put it, the idea of running into strangers in the wilderness was more dangerous to them than running into a bear or other wild animal. Nonetheless,
you never know. You can't trust
a
human.
And gathering up gifts of goodwill offerings in their backpacks, prepared to hike to the spot found by the helicopter pilots. Despite their hopes that a meeting with these strangers would go well, many of the geologists carried loaded pistols, just in case. The team soon set off for the garden site, and still a few miles away started to find out.
Let me pause here. Imagine if there's a civilization out there who hasn't been discovered. Now, I know that's not true, and it can't be true, but imagine, man, that could be crazy. That people living out there, they never really know what's going on. It probably is out there. Like, so many people that we are, there are some people out there who has no idea what's going on. For example, the Iceland with the tribe, the black tribe or whatever it was crazy to see that they never seen a helicopter, they never seen anything modern. Like, it's just crazy, man. I think in Russia there are some people like that too, but yeah, let's get into it, let's go.
Of human habitation. Someone had felled a large log and rolled it so it formed a bridge over a stream, and had even hewn a rough path through the woods. Along that path, the geologist stumbled into a shed, inside of which were containers made of birch bark and stuffed with cut-up dried potatoes. This discovery confirmed that the pilots had indeed spotted a garden on the mountain after all. Just a little bit past the shed, though, the team of geologists made another astounding discovery: a small hut, piled up on all sides with all manner of tree bark, branches, and even planks, sat by the edge of a small stream. It had clearly been there a long time, as the wood had blackened with age. First, the geologists assumed it was merely another storage hut, but then they spotted a square, small window, the hut's only source of illumination. Then, with a slow creak and a groan, a small door opened up. An old man slowly stepped out of the hut, cautiously inspecting the team of geologists. He was barefoot and wearing a shirt made out of sacks that had been repeatedly repatched over the years. His pants were also made out of sackcloth, and his wild, unruly hair was a mess that matched his equally unkempt beard. The old man seemed terrified of the team and unsure of what to make of the situation. And to break the tension, one of the geologists shouted, "Greetings, grandfather, we've come to visit." The old man hesitated, but then quietly responded with, "Well, since you've traveled this far, you might as well come in." Hesitantly, the geologist entered the small hut, stooping to enter through the low door. Inside, the floor was bare dirt, covered up with potato peels and pine nut shells, and sagging rotten wood logs kept the ceiling from collapsing downward. It resembled less a house or even a shack and more a warren such as that made by muskrats or beavers to hole up for in the winter. A single small fire burned inside with one hole in the ceiling to vent the smoke. The one tiny window was the only source of illumination, and the light that came in fell on a family of 5. The man shared the hut with his 2 sons and 2 daughters, with the daughters clearly terrified at the visitors. One of the daughters hid behind a log and cried, praying out loud, "This is for our sins, our sins." The geologists realized they were terrifying the family and decided to quickly back out of the hut. The men set up to eat lunch a few yards away from the camp, and after half an hour, the cabin door creaked open and the old man and his daughters moved to join the geologists. The man spoke good Russian and was understandable, but the sisters spoke a distorted version of the language to each other. Clearly, they had never before encountered other people, and their lifelong isolation had severely affected their speech. The geologists offered the family some of their food, jam, tea, and bread, but the daughters gasped, "We're not allowed that." Astonished, the scientists asked the father if they've ever eaten bread, to which he replied that he had, but his daughters had never seen it before. The team decided to leave the family alone, though not without giving them some supplies as a gift. Over the next few years, the geologists continued to visit the family and learn more about them. The father was called Karp Lykov, and he had once been a regular member of Russian society. He was a member of the Old Believers, a fundamentalist Russian Orthodox sect, and a frequent target of the Russian government's persecution. During Peter the Great's reign,
makes a lot of
he persecuted
explanation,
the Old Believers and other fundamentalists, and in a bid to modernize Russia, he taxed the wearing of long beards, believing them to be symbol of antiquated beliefs.
What?
If one was unable to pay the tax, they'd have to have their beard forcibly shaved off. Then after the Russian Revolution that overthrew the Tsars, the Bolsheviks took power. As atheists, they had cracked down on religious communities even harder than the Tsars ever had, and many religious communities fled to Siberia to escape persecution.
Of course.
In great purges, Bolshevik troops would burn down religious buildings and sometimes even imprison or outright kill faith practitioners. In 1936, Lykov and his brother had been working on the outskirts of their village when a communist patrol shot at them. Lykov's brother was immediately killed, and Lykov immediately gathered his family and fled to the wilderness. 2 of the children had never before seen another human being, and though they knew that there were things such as cities and even other countries full of people, these were nothing more than abstract ideas to the children. Their education had consisted of reading and writing lessons carried out with the help of an ancient family Bible, along with a few other religious texts. When shown a photo of a horse, one of the daughters recognized it from the Bible stories, but she had never seen the animal in person, let alone a photograph. The family had been gradually moving deeper and deeper into the wilderness for years, terrified of communist persecution. Finally, they had settled in the spot they were discovered at, a whopping 150 miles from the nearest city.
Let me pause here, man. It's kind of sad to see that the family is actually just, you know, doing this thing, but it's kind of remarkable how humans, they can survive out in the wild and how they can, you know, adapt to the things that they see and the things that they have. It's actually very, very nice to see, man. But it must be so sad to take your family out on the last and just, you know, get prosecuted from your country and nobody likes you and everybody just follows you, you know, and not know that there's a different world outside where you can live a good life. But as long as they're okay, everything is good, man. But let's go.
Getting there, even with the help of a boat, was hard work, yet the family had learned to live in isolation. They faced many hardships though, and most of their clothes were made out of hemp cloth, their original clothing items having worn away to nothing over the decades. For food, the family foraged for what it could in the summertime, but since they had no way of repairing kettles that had rusted away with time, they were unable to cook most of their food. This meant that they lived primarily on a diet of potato patties mixed with ground-up rye and hemp seeds. The wilderness around them, however, offered plenty of pine nuts and berries during the short spring and summer, and the 3 men hunted by trapping animals when they could. The youngest son, Dmitri, had become a prodigal hunter, resorting back to the ancient techniques that made humans so successful in the ancient savanna from which we came. Without a gun, or even a bow, he would simply run an animal until it became exhausted, chasing it for miles over the rough mountain terrain. He was recorded as having an incredible endurance, capable of running for miles and miles even barefoot in the middle of winter, and sleeping out in the open during winter days as he hunted his prey. Unfortunately, tragedy struck in 1961 when snow fell in early June. Already living close to starvation, the frost killed the few crops growing in their garden and the family was reduced to eating tree bark and their tree bark galoshes and shoes. Not wishing to see her children go hungry, the mother Akalina gave up what little food she had for her children and died of starvation that summer. In the garden, though, a tiny miracle which would save their lives took place, with a single grain of rye sprouting from the devastated crops. The family built a small fence around it and guarded it day and night for weeks, keeping squirrels and mice away. From the 18 grains the single growth of rye yielded, they rebuilt their entire rye crop. The family slowly got to know about the outside world thanks to the visiting geologists. They had no idea that World War II had taken place, and Lykov absolutely refused to believe that man had actually set foot on the moon. But he was not surprised to learn of the invention of satellites. Ever since the 1950s, he and his family had watched as new strange stars rapidly zipped by overhead, and Lykov had noted to his family that people have thought something up and are sending out fires that are very like stars. What truly impressed and delighted Lykov the most, though, was Cellophane, who exclaimed it was like glass but crumpled up in your hand. The youngest daughter, Agafia, and the youngest son, Dmitri, quickly grew friendly and much closer with the geologist than the rest of the family. The decades of isolation had crafted Agafia's speech into a sing-song pattern, and this at first made the scientists believe that she was dim-witted. In reality, Agafia was quite intelligent and clever, and was often sarcastic and able to poke fun at herself and her situation. Dmitri gladly led the geologists around the woods he knew so closely, and was the first of the family to accept their invitation to visit their own camp down the stream. There, he marveled at all the new technology, having seen nearly zero technology before over his entire lifetime. Soon, the family was accepting the geologists for longer and longer stretches at a time, and one of the men, an oil driller named Yerofi Sedov, even developed a close bond with the hermit family. He would spend days at a time helping the family plant and harvest crops or undertake new construction and maintenance projects. Though at first, the family had only accepted a single gift from their visitors, salt, which Lykov claimed had been a torture to live without. Soon, they were accepting clothes, knives, forks, grain, and flashlights. Eventually, they even began visiting the geologist's camp together, and there they discovered television, which enraptured them, even as it terrified them. Often, the family members would pray for forgiveness after watching the television, believing it to have been a sin. Sadly, though, the family would go into rapid decline soon after re-establishing contact with the outside world. Thanks to their harsh diet, two of the children, the eldest son and daughter, both died of kidney failure just a few years after the geologist's first visit. Dmitri, the geologist's closest friend in the family, also died of pneumonia, likely brought on by infection through one of the visitors. With no previous contact with the outside world and its germs, his body was unable to fight off the infection. The distraught geologist pleaded with the family to allow them to call for a helicopter and have Dmitri flown to a hospital, but he himself refused. His final words were a whisper, "We're not allowed that. A man lives for howsoever God grants." By 1981, 3 of the family members were dead, and on February 16, 1988, 27 years to the day when his wife died of starvation, the father died as well. With the help of the geologists, Agafia, the youngest daughter, buried her father. The scientists had long ago discovered family members who had survived the purges and were living in their original villages, and offered to have Agafia reunited with them, but she refused their offer. Agafia remained on the mountainside she had known all her life. Today, she is well into her 70s and still lives.
Well, let me pause here. I understand that because you really don't want to leave home. You want to live comfortable. You want to live with the memories and everything. Even though there's a lot of technology and there's a lot of things, she doesn't really know what we know. That's the problem. So she thinks like she just want to be left alone. She just want to live her own life. She want to live where she is comfortable. And that is a beautiful thing to see, man. Really beautiful. But let's see the last thing of this.
Mountainside, though none have visited for years, and it's likely that she has finally joined her family. Think you could ever live for decades in the wilderness with no technology? What would make you flee civilization? Let us know in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Let me pause here, man. I could not live in the wilderness with no technology because I'm so used to technology that I think actually it's healthy to go without technology because I think technology is basically fucking our brains up. It does a lot of things negative to our brain, but it also does a lot of positive. It makes us think, makes us multitask, make us do different things, live our life quicker, and you know, all this stuff. But of course, there's some negative sides to it, like radiation, whatever it is in phones, because you don't know what is in the phone and if it bears like consequences. They actually, I think they did a study where it shows that people who look down on their phone all their life, their spine in their family genes will go down. So they look down because it actually has a negative effect that you look down on your phone all the time. No worries about that. And also a new disease came by, a new psychologist disease or mental disease that you have to look on your phone every time. I don't know what disease it was, but I heard it before, man. But I could not live without technology out in the wilderness because I'm really not built for that. I could learn it, but I'm not really built for that. I will always have the memories like his dad, of course, like the dad in this this video right here. But of course, I will to adapt to the, you know, the thing that I'm fleeing and the way I live, you know. It's crazy, man. What would make me flee civilization? Well, what would make me flee civilization is basically the stress that we have nowadays. Let me take this off. I'm stupid. I'm sitting talking with this. But the stress that we have nowadays, the way that we have to please everybody all the time. We have to make... we have to please everybody. We cannot listen to compliments. We always listen to the negative because we have to be perfect in this world. And I don't believe that is true. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to do whatever you love, and that's it. And be with whoever you love. Like, many people, they surround themselves with fake friends, fake family members, fake everything, because they have to have a social network. Like, for example, Facebook. Like, they think everybody is their friends. Now, if you decline a friendship on Facebook, you are automatically enemies, or the guy who sent the friend request don't like you anymore. And it's kind of crazy to me, and it's something we have to adapt, of course, in a new world. But I believe it's kind of negative, and I actually want to go away from that, because people, they don't show from the true colors. They just want to see what they want you to see. They don't want you to see the heart, the pain, everything, when they cry, everything. It's basically just the image that you live up, and everybody who compete about the best life in the world. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy to see, but I totally get it. But I could live without that. I could live without all the stress, the people telling you can't do this, you can't do that, because they know everything better than you. It's kind of annoying, but yeah, basically I love society like it is, especially my country, where you could get free healthcare, or free education, free hospital, free everything. Everything is free as long as you pay your taxes. I couldn't live without that. I couldn't. I appreciate my country. I appreciate the hardworking people who is paying the taxes and actually making this happen. I really do. So I couldn't, but I really want to get the stress factor down. That's the reason why I would, you know, be free from civilization, and I wanted to be free from civilization, because I think there's going to be a problem in the future where we are too obsessed about other people's opinion, like we see now with girls and models and cyberbullying. And I know bullying is always there, but there's teasing, there's hardcore bullying, but now it's much more easier to bully people, if you know what I mean. And that's a fact. That's definitely a fact. It's much more easy to bully people, because back in the days, people had to listen to you in order for you to bully them. So if they didn't listen to you, they didn't get bullied. You know what I mean? Like, nowadays, you could just get a text to some random dude on YouTube and say, "Oh, you fat, ugly motherfucker." You know what I mean? Like, it's just a disgrace for human race. But it is what it is. Us people the human race keeps disappointing me many times, but they also make a lot of good things, and there's a lot of good people out in the world, so it's a beautiful thing. But thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for, you know, requesting this video. I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below. It would be massively appreciated. And if you want to become a member of the Jelly Goon Squad, please do subscribe and hit that notification button in order to become a member of the Jelly Goon Squad. Be updated on the newest videos that come. But yeah. Anyway, guys and girls, I'm going to move on into the next one.